Hello, this is Pam Wilkinson, and it is May 24th, 2017. We are having our monthly open office for the Authentic Living group. And today we're going to be having open questions and answers and discussion, but we will also be talking about fear and about not being afraid of fear. So let's get started. It's just 1 minute past 5. So the title of this is Don't Be Afraid of Fear. So there's some questions we're going to answer today. Where does fear come from anyway? And is courage the opposite of fear? What's the difference between fear having us and us having fear? Fourth, do we need fear to go away before we can move forward in our lives? And fifth, what is the opposite of fear? Finally, number 6, how can we overcome fear? So this quote is from Madison Taylor, who I see her post, her blog post. She has a blog called The Daily Om, and it's a lot of very pertinent stuff to what I'm trying to teach. Anyway, she's talking about fear in this particular one, and she says, no matter how brave, strong, or level-headed we are, sometimes we all get scared. She goes on to talk about how fear happens to all of us, and sometimes it's for our physical safety. So we kind of need to pay attention to that. But it might be that there is some kind of a hazard in our physical environment, or perhaps we have an illness that we're not sure how it's going to turn out. The other kinds of fears that are rather, I guess, common would be financial woes, a fear that we won't have enough money to take care of ourselves. Maybe it's a fear of losing a loved one who's very ill. It might be a fear of being alone. If someone has always been looking for that one special person to spend their life with, and they haven't been able to find that, they could fear being alone the rest of their life. But in any case, anything that we're not accustomed to is going to create fear, starting something new. So how do you overcome fear? Well, to start with, you just acknowledge it, and then you give yourself permission to feel the fear. Another way to deal with it is to share our feels with others. Share our fears with others. So allowing ourselves to recognize it in ourselves and share it with others, we're not judging ourselves for having that emotion. Where does fear come from? Essentially, fear is feedback. It's telling us that we are approaching something that's unfamiliar. Because it's unfamiliar, it's not within our comfort zone. Excuse me. Sometimes we are affected by past experiences. For example, if we had a bad experience in our past of being abandoned by someone, that fear might come up again for us if we're in a position where we're afraid that someone's going to abandon us. And sometimes that keeps people from pursuing relationships out of that fear. Is courage the opposite of fear? Actually, no. Courage is feeling fear and moving ahead in spite of it. What is the difference between fear having us and us having fear? Well, we can choose to accept the fear. We can allow it. Fear is something like weeds in a garden. If we ignore them, hoping they go away, the garden eventually becomes engulfed in weeds and the plants die. And the same is true for us. Do we need fear to go away to move forward in our lives? No, and actually it's the opposite. Fear is a necessary ingredient of being successful in life. In fact, the level of success is directly proportional to our ability to tolerate discomfort, which is what fear is. We're feeling uncomfortable because something's unfamiliar. Some people tolerate that feeling of discomfort more than other people do. So some people are really willing to risk being fearful because they know that without overcoming that they aren't going to grow and explore and become more and more of who they are. You see, nothing really ever happens in the comfort zone. We just stay where we're at, which there's nothing wrong with that. It's a choice. So what is the opposite of fear? Faith is the opposite of fear. Faith is choosing to believe something, even when there may not be evidence of it. So you may believe in your vision, even though you don't have true evidence of it yet, you have a visualization. And that's really to address the question, how can we overcome it? Again, just acknowledging and accepting it and not judging it, but also seeing it as something that might be positive. Eleanor Roosevelt said, do one thing every day that scares you. In other words, get yourself accustomed to that feeling, that discomfort, so when it happens, you're not so alarmed. And then refocus your attention on your vision. This is the part where you are overcoming the fear because you have decided to have faith in something that you want to have happen, even though there's no proof yet that it's going to happen. So you feed your faith. Do one thing this week, in fact, that is actually stepping into your vision and see yourself in it and step into the feeling tone of what it's like to be in your vision. Another thing to do is to compare facts with the truth. So we might have a fact that we have financial problems, and that's a fact. We don't have a lot of money in the bank. But what's the truth? The truth is not that we are going to starve to death or lose our homes. The truth is what's happening right now. And someone very wise in my life shared this with me. He said, when you have a fear about the future, stop and say to yourself, what's happening right now? Do I have a home? Yes. Do I have do I have food in the refrigerator, in the cupboards? Yes. Do I have clothes to wear? Yes. Do I have a car to drive? Yes. Do I have friends and family? Yes. So even though we don't have a lot of money, the truth is that we are abundant. We have a lot of things. So if we focus on what we have versus what we don't have, it really helps to get over the fear that way. I'm going to share something with you that I found very amusing. Dame Helen Mirren, the actress, spoke at the commencement of the graduates from Tulane University. And this was just this past Saturday on May 24th. She spoke about her top 5 rules for happy life. And I'm going to read this. Her number 4 rule was, don't be afraid of fear. She says, those words bring me back to my grammar school and our headmistress, Mother Mary Mildred, an ancient nun. Is there any other type? Probably not. With one drooping eyelid and a lifetime lived behind the walls of a convent, she said those words to me the moment I walked into her class, a trembling 11-year-old about to enter high school. 60 years later, and I will never forget those words or that teacher. I think what she meant was, don't let fear rule you. Now, mind you, sometimes it's wise to be afraid, like when you are about to take a dive into a pool with not enough water in it, or drive a car drunk. In moments like those, be afraid. Be very afraid and absolutely don't do it. And if you want more information or need to be convinced, go ahead and please walk into a paraplegic ward in a hospital and see for yourself. But for the moments when you are challenged by other fears, like, am I good enough? Am I smart enough? Will I fail? Throw caution to the winds. Look fear straight in the eyes, in its ugly face. And when you get past it, turn around and give it a good, swift kick in the ass. And thank Mother Mary Mildred. Well, thank you, Dame Helen, and thank you all for being here on this Zoom call to take a look at fear. Now let's move into a two-way discussion. What questions or comments do you have? And I will stop the recording now for those who would rather not share this